Warriors, rise. Hey, what's up, Warriors? It's Coach JV and my dear friend Waters Above. We're excited to be with you guys again today. We're reconnecting, and these are going to be more frequent conversations. First of all, we have some exciting news for you guys. Things we're going to talk about today is April. What's going on in April, right? With Goldman Sachs making their announcement, there's a first U.S. trade that happened in America. There's a lot of things happening with the Super Bowl. We're going to break that down. But April seems to be a big month, and we're going to break that down as well. April 30th, we're going to talk about that date, and then we're just going to chalk it up as we always do. First of all, from a deep level of gratitude, I want to say thank you to everybody, to Waters Above community, to our community. This is one of our biggest shows that is watched, and we really appreciate that. So we want to give back to you guys. Something that has been asked is, can you guys come together and build something for a spiritual awakening? What we decided to do is Waters Above I have had some deep conversations outside of our YouTube channel. We go much deeper than just getting on this YouTube and chatting back and forth. We have a lot of similar connections in regards to it. I've learned a lot from him around the Gematria and breaking down the coding. He broke down my coding, and if you were part of our Warrior Academy, it was unbelievable what he broke down. My name actually equals the business that I am running. I mean, this rabbit hole goes so deep, but as we go into this new world and this new way of living, right, we need to know who we are and what we're doing. And so we decided to do something outside of cryptocurrency, because a lot of people come to us for, I don't want to say spiritual, it's just for awakening, right? Because we're both have awakened to a new reality, right? I would venture to say we're both outside of the matrix. So I do want to show you guys something that we're really excited about. So Ken Mack and I did what's called the Red Pill Bootcamp, and we're excited to share with you that Waters Above and I are launching what's called the Great Awakening Bootcamp. Now, there is going to be limited spots for this bootcamp, just to let you know, okay? So this is launching today. It's in the link in the bio down there. You can join it. We made it very affordable. It's going to be a 4-week bootcamp, okay? So it's presented by me and Waters Above. It's going to be us working together presenting this. It's going to be a 4-week bootcamp, okay? Number one is you don't have to be present on the boot camp. The way we did Red Pill is you can come, it's going to be recorded, then it'll be posted in a private Facebook group. It'll all be organized. Don't worry. If you miss all of them, you're going to get all of them packaged together in a beautiful email at the end. And then if you miss the whole thing, we're going to have it pre-recorded after the thing. But these are live events that you'll be coming to. So you guys both know me and Waters Above, but I want to show you some of the things that you'll be discovering. So week one, you're going to rediscover who you are. Really opening up the great I am. Like, who are you? And we're going to take things from experiential and also from informational standpoints. Week two, you're going to become the creator of your own reality. You guys have all heard of the secret manifestation. A lot of people are out there preaching manifestation, but are they truly embodying that? And what does that mean to be the creator of your own reality? So we're going to give you tactical, strategic, and tactical things to go activate on that. Week three to me is going to be the most important. We're going to take we're going to unlock practical tools in a very confused world, right? So how did we unlock these tools within this really confusing world that we live in, right? It's all your perception and reality, and everybody's reality is equally important. So in week three, you're going to be getting the practical tools from our own personal experiences, tools that you can put in your tool belt. So when you go out into this unpractical, confusing world, or practical, whatever you want to perceive it as, you have tools in your tool belt. And week four is probably the most important. You're going to let go and create the flow. So that's what you're seeing with people like Waters Above and I, is you're seeing these freedom lifestyles where I'm showing my freedom lifestyle, where I'm out there traveling around the world. I got some other amazing announcements. There's things that are happening right now that are hard to explain to people. So we have decided in the Warrior Academy to show it to people. And some of the things that we have in a meeting that we have tomorrow that will manifest in June and August will absolutely blow your mind of what's happening. The reason why we're going to start filming and expressing this, because I want to show you what's possible. Now, I first of all want to send gratitude to Waters Above, because by coming together with him and our communities coming together, we truly believe we can help more people. It's not about, influencers or TikTokers or anybody going against each other. If we can lock arm in arm and climb up this mountain together, but we decided also to provide tools for you. So like, it's very easy to watch a YouTube video, but what is the tactical things? How are we living our life? How did we discover the great I am with us? And how did we get to the point where we're able to get on a microphone and a computer here and help people all over the world? So we're going to show you step by step how we did that. So I want to kick it over to Waters Above. First of all, I want to personally, how are you doing? How's life? How are things going?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really grateful for you and your community. It's great to be here again. I'm doing really well.
Awesome, man. So can we talk a little bit about the decoding you did? I don't think we've talked about it on the YouTube channel, because I I had to digest that after I left. I think I went on my, I don't know if it was in between my Peru trip, but I basically 30 days, I've been gone for 20, right? And it was in between one of my trips or something. And basically what Waters Above did is he decoded my name, and it basically equals my business, correct? That's what it was decoded into.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. Hopefully, between us, we could do a full decode on you soon, and that could be shared with your community if you'd like. But yeah, I was working on a decode with you based off of a conversation we had personally, and you were really intrigued. You were like, "Can you use this code to know more about your life?" I remember I sent you over your birth card, and you were just like, "And you're blown away."
Yeah.
And that was just one little piece of it. But I have stuff in the background that I'm so excited to share with you, and I think it's going to be really helpful for you and eventually your community if you plan to release that information. But some of it could be personal, so again, it's going to be stuff that I'm going to share with you first. But it's just basic stuff, like right off the bat, just the name of your company, 3T Warrior Academy, and your full name match in Gematria and the exact ciphers that they're located in. So anyone who watches my channel, you'll know that I do Gematria, which is essentially numerical value to letters. So you have the numbers and the letters combined, and that code allows you to see some of the connections that are deeper in the way we perceive things. So it's not just about the numbers itself, it's also about the words and how the words tied to the numbers compile together to form this code. And my work specifically focuses on cryptocurrency, but pretty much since the start of this particular year, I've been doing a lot of extra work in the background to show people like this works with precious metals, it works with stocks, it works with your name, it works with sports, it works with so many things. So, the big decode that I did in February was breaking down the year of the tiger, the connection to the Chinese New Year, and all of those connections that we had to metaverse. And, we had the Facebook rebranding to metaverse, and that was tied to a bunch of crypto things. So, a lot of people that were in this community, they were like, wow, I wasn't anticipating it to roll out this way. And then again, what happened to metaverse? They had a huge, enormous pullback in their publicly traded stock. And that signaled to me that there was a connection there between metaverse, the tiger, and then also the Cincinnati Bengals. We were able to determine who would win the Super Bowl. And then this color coding of the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams with blue and yellow to the Ukrainian flag. We started doing more connections there, more decode. And it's just been getting more and more comprehensive as the weeks go by. I mean, this month in particular was very exciting because it's a transition month. Of course, we had spring equinox about 2 days ago, and we're moving into the month of April. And April has always been a very, very positively performing month in the stock market and also in cryptocurrency. So it's always exciting. And I actually started my channel about 1 year ago around this time. So it was really beautiful when I kicked off this channel and I was sharing with the world this code of Gematria. We were able to predict that XRP would hit $1 for the first time in I think it was about 4 years. And we did it with Gematria. So it was really beautiful to be able to show the world that. And ever since then, it's enlightened a lot of people into how this reality actually works regarding the markets.
Oh, it's been life-changing since I've worked with you because I've just been on this experiential journey, right? And so what it was really neat is working with you and understanding what you do and helping me and breaking it down. And when you broke it down in front of my team, I was actually getting emotional because what people keep asking me, well, JV, how did you do this? How did you get to this point where you're traveling around? I'm literally being paid to be me. 100% being paid to be me, because the guy that was sitting in the suit in corporate America was completely out of alignment with keep saying Gematria. Am I saying it incorrectly? How do you say it?
Yeah, you're pretty close. It's Gematria.
Gematria. Okay, so when I was in corporate America, I was just outside of that. I was working for a paycheck for survival, outside of alignment with who I was, and I started to feel this intuitive tug. And the name resonates so much because the name was created based on the lifestyle changes I was making. 3T was created because timing, target, trigger. It was about fasting and nutrition. And so I started doing that, which awakened me, right? And then the fasting and timing and target awakened me. And then I started to change my internal vibration. It started to give me this in corporate America. And I started to get this and I walked out and I went on this journey, which ended up becoming the 3T Fitness, which transitioned into 3T Warrior Academy. And then you did the breakdown of my name, and my name basically lines up with 3T Warrior Academy. And then it really hit me. I'm like, wow, there is something to this alignment with who you truly are, and when the numbers start to line up. And so that's what I want to dive into. So you talked about the Rams, right? You talked about the Super Bowl. You talked about the alignment with Ukraine, like the colors and stuff. And then as we head into entering the Aries and Zodiac, let's talk about that. So Aries is a big thing as well, right?
Yeah, so yesterday we essentially transitioned into Aries, but in the tropical system. So there's different forms of astrology. The most popular one, the most popularly accepted one, especially on this hemisphere, is the tropical system. But of course, you have sidereal and you also have Vedic. But with that being said, just to preface, we have moved into Aries, and Aries is the ram. And why this is so important is because it all ties together into everything we were discussing. Also, March is for Mars, and Mars is the god of war. So is it ironic that, we had the Super Bowl where the Rams win and then it leads into this war narrative? And this was all kind of like, concocting at the same time. It was sort of a pressure cooker, if you will. And it headed off into this perfect timeline, which you would know, especially because me and you connected over a half a year ago. And I was telling you how Shemitah plays such a big role in all of this. So now we're in Shemitah, and we can go back to every single war, every single huge conflict, the World Trade Center bombings, all of this stuff. It's always happening during Shemitah. So anyone who's been following my work or has heard our first interview together, where we were exposing this to your community, you would have been prepared for these big, geopolitical events and changes in the world. And the one thing that I remember us talking about in our early interviews was the idea of Shemitah being a deflationary period. And a lot of people were not super happy with me when I was exposing this, because we're always being fed that the dollar is going to go to zero. And I was saying that you got to hold up. You have to look at the charts during Shemitah. And during this time frame specifically, we always see hyperinflation in perhaps oil. We see it perhaps in the typical things. We see it in food prices, housing, etc. But we see the dollar become stronger. The dollar itself, the U.S., which is the reserve, the world reserve, it becomes stronger during that 7th year. So, just to quickly recap, Shemitah is every 7 years. We're currently in that cycle right now, and we're seeing that play out. We're seeing the dollar become stronger. And we're also seeing at the same time precious metals become stronger, oil becomes more, higher priced, etc. So this is such a repeatable cycle that it is the most paramount thing to remember when you're part of the market. If you're a market participant and you do not know about this 7-year cycle, you're really you're going to be unaware to why we get all this volatility, and it's so cyclical.
Yeah, and that's one thing. So can we dive into the war narrative, right? So the cyber attacks, right? People keep asking. So I'm doing a video on the cyber attacks tomorrow. Biden came out today and made announcement, a warning about cyber attacks. Klaus Schwab warned about cyber attacks. And one thing that I do want to point out is just, and remember, warriors, I'm not left, right, up, down. I'm just me having a physical experience, traveling the world and being me. So please know I'm not picking narratives. What I want to share with you guys, and I want to talk to you about this, is I've been traveling a lot, even during the C word last year. But my travels, what I noticed is the mask laws in California are gone now. Boom, gone, just disappeared. Boom. 14th, now there's no mask laws, right? So that was one of the toughest places. I was in Florida. Obviously, Florida was really light before, but you can see that the narrative is changing to war now, right? And it seems like people are forgetting about the C word narrative. So it's like, boom, we got war now. We're moving our heads over here. And now we're starting to hear about the cyber attacks, right? The cyber attacks are coming. Is there any coding to that? A lot of people I think people in the comments are asking that as well. And we hear about the SWIFT narrative and them taking them off the SWIFT system in China and Russia. Is there anything in regards to that around Gematria?
Well, I do consider that there's going to be opportunity for these things, but if I had to time it, it would either be timed on eclipses or it would be timed at the very end of Shemitah. Because when we have the biggest, most horrible events happening, they're always timed with a code of 222, or they're timed with being the eclipse that follows the end of Shemitah. So just to help the people in your community, when we had Rosh Hashanah last year, it was on September 7th of 2021. We're in Shemitah until September 27th of 2022. So we're kind of smack dab in the middle of it
Got it.
essentially. So if we go to all the biggest market crashes and all of the depressions or recessions historically, they always start at the end of a Shemitah. So if we're going to have a big devastating cyber pandemic and some sort of like, blackout of the financial system, it's most likely going to be one of those events that happens after Shemitah. But this isn't me telling people advice. This isn't me saying that anything is like that it's impossible for it to happen before that. Anything is possible. But I mean, if I was to just sort of think
Yep.
of it based on the code, think about it based on astrology and historical data, which as a technical analyst, that's what I do. We have to look at the prior chart data to make, what's the highest probability outcome.
Hmm.
But one thing that I can say, and this is a little bit more esoteric, is you have the word cyber pandemic in Gematria. It equals 233 in a specific cipher. And I actually made a video today on my YouTube channel, and it was discussing tomorrow's date. And tomorrow's date is the 23rd of March. And if you look at the way that we write dates internationally, it is the month behind the date. So it would be written 233. That's the way tomorrow's date will look internationally. So if you live in like Australia, if you wrote the date, it would be 23/3. And that's just amazing that cyber pandemic actually equals 233. Again, I'm not saying that we're going to have that tomorrow, but this is one of the ways that I decode. I try to come up with this confluence. What's the code telling me, and
Yep.
what are the geopolitical events? How can I like analyze it holistically? Because when you start getting into gematria, that's a whole other level of our reality, and it takes a lot of base knowledge. So with that being said, I mean, there's so many ways to consider how this can go down, but I do urge people with your free time, go study Spanish flu and World War II.
Mm.
Because if you study that time frame, you'll see like with 100%, you can't deny it. Spanish flu lasted 2 years and 2 months. Okay. So the World Health Organization declared the pandemic on March 11th of 2020. So this is 2 years so far, and 2 months would be the April into May timeframe.
Mm.
So no wonder this quote unquote pandemic narrative is coming to an end, because it is almost an identical time loop to what happened back in Spanish flu. And remember, when this
Yep.
event happened in the world, they were telling everyone in the world that it's like Spanish flu.
Mm.
They were
They,
coming out and they were saying that all over the news. They kept
oh,
comparing it. So
yes.
so I tell
Mm.
people, if you want to be a little more savvy, just go back in history and you'll see that things repeat. And
Mm.
I've already told people probably like over a half a year ago that I was anticipating this pandemic to end in May. And the reason why was because I was decoding this Spanish flu. And the fact that we're also getting a war narrative tied
Mhm.
into the ending of the pandemic is just like that time frame back during World War II. So what happened in 1913? We have the Federal Reserve was implemented.
Yep.
And then we moved through that time frame. We kind of cascaded into the early 30s, but we had the 1929 Great Depression. If you look at the stock charts back in 1927, 1928, the market went parabolic.
Hmm.
And then we saw the S&P lose like 95% of its value.
Yeah.
So this is like bubble territory. And I believe like, how is this all going to play out? Are they going to allow one market to fail? And then where's all that money going to go? And in my opinion, I sort of look at crypto as
Yep.
a place for that money to transition into.
Yep.
Again, that's me just thinking outside the box. Perhaps I could be wrong with that, but I do see there needing to be a place for this money to go.
And I'll dive into that because this is so I love your review of this. Okay, so and I'll tell you from a banking factual experience of what you just said. Okay, so I graduated from CBA Executive Banking School. You guys can look it up. It's Consumer Banking Association. Consumer Banking Association School is where elite bankers go to become like C-suite leaders, right? So they train the next level of C-suite leaders within the largest bank organizations in the world. So CBA Executive Banking School, if you look at the YouTube video I just did yesterday, I show you guys that CBA is now saying on their website, they're training the new future of innovative bankers. They said, it's not if, it's not, are we going to, it's when we implement how we implement cryptocurrency and when we're going to implement cryptocurrency. Their whole verbiage has changed. They're using the words even playing field. They're innovating their new bankers. They're training them into it's literally on their website, even playing field. They're training their new bankers into now. When I was going through banking school, we were training into fintech, financial technology. I was with a large Fortune 500 bank, but one of the banks, which was Chase, now I wasn't with Chase, but was already moving into innovative technology, replacing people with fintech, which was talking ATMs. If you guys see, Chase has almost transitioned to all talking ATMs, right? There's a bank called Wells Fargo that they were always slow to innovate. Now Wells Fargo is jumping on board with the distributed ledger technology, right? So banks, just so you guys know what he's saying, like that money is going to flood somewhere, and the money is going to be flooding into cryptocurrency. That's just my opinion, but I'm coming from a banking perspective. They were telling us to stay away from it. At the same time, they were developing it and stacking their bags in it. And I think what happened just recently, I just did a video this morning on Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, the CEO in 2017, was saying, hey, he was like, I'm not bullish on cryptocurrency or Bitcoin yet. He said, but when I'm not going to use the right words. You can watch the video. I said, when the fields are rosy, we'll get into it. All of a sudden in January, they start announcing that Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000. By March, they link up with Galaxy Digital, and they allow their clients to trade Ethereum. And then what was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. They did their first Bitcoin trade in the US. And I'm like, it's literally like just predictive programming. It's like, okay, let's get you guys to look this way. We're going to pack our bags this way. And I agree with you. And then there's another narrative too. It's like the baby boomers, that's where most of the wealth is tied up. That money has to go somewhere. That money has to flood. It's going to start flooding down to the next generations, and the next generations are more into technology and fintech. So I didn't mean to kind of dive into that, but it lines perfectly with what you're saying, because where is the money going to go? The money's not going to disappear. It's going to flow somewhere, right?
Well, you made a great point. I think you piggybacked off of what I said, like with a lot of validity. The way I'm looking at it too is Shemitah is a huge part of the conversation. So it's not me saying that out of nowhere we're just going to see like trillions flood into crypto now. We need to have a destabilization moment. We need to have chaos for order to come. This is how the banking system was designed. The banking system is 100% fraudulent. It's just infinite printing, especially since the invention of QE. So what they do with these cycles, with these boom and bust cycles, it's a way of showing the public and giving the public narratives to make it seem real. But in actuality, it's just completely make believe. And they could do whatever they want with whatever they want, and then create whatever narrative they want to create. And because they control all the media, they control the banks, they control all aspects of our perception, well, it could influence us accordingly. And this is why so few people are, finding this information. But hopefully with the work that me and you are doing, more people are gravitating towards these truths.
Yes, and that's what the boot camp's about too, because like as I traveled around, and I don't cast judgment on other people. I have enough shit that I'm dealing with, and I have no right to cast judgment on people. But what I did notice, and I hope you guys can notice, as you move around and you're seeing all of a sudden people are chilling out, right? They're chilling out because there's a whole nother narrative, right? The narrative is a little bit further away from them. Now everybody on TikTok is talking about gas prices. And so it's like gas prices, food prices, right? They're all doing TikToks on gas prices, right? Well, what happened to the mask narrative? What happened to the C word narrative? It like literally is dying off. And I just hope people can recognize that. And if you believe in it, that's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just hoping that people can see and open up their eyes to see that you taught me about the Shemitah. We're in the Shemitah. The cycles are happening. You talked about the Spanish flu. I've showed people the World Economic Forum, and literally Klaus Schwab says, hey, we're heading here. Boom, that's where we go. We're heading here. Boom, cyber attacks are coming. Biden just announced there's some cyber attack. It's like I feel like our community is pretty woke, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is that the biggest thing I've learned? And I want to ask something. We'll dive into a different topic really quickly. But for me, is as I've awakened myself, people respond to me differently. Like I was having the best high vibrational times on my trips. I mean, it was like the way the driver was responding to me, the things that happened to us, and it's like. What I want to encourage people is, as you awaken inside and you feel the truth of love is the only thing that matters truly, is love for yourself and others as you overflow into others, is everything changes around you, right? But it's you can almost see what's happening. I can see people. It made me sad because I can see people all of a sudden they're really big on the mask narrative, and they're just February 14th in California, it was like, take your mask off. And nobody's wearing masks. It's like, well, people like, I hope people can just take that for what it is. Like, what are your thoughts on, like, it's just I know it's the indoctrination system. I get that, but it's like, I was trying to rationalize that. And I'm like, how did we get to the question I have for you, sorry, is how did we get to this point as human beings? I think at some point, they create a monetary system, obviously, but at some point, somebody got the person to look out from the mirror up to them and say, I'm the answer. Through that, you know what I'm saying? Like a physical being was like, listen, you need me, and you can't survive without me, and you can't pay your bills without me. And so you need to go through me, right? And to get to there, you need to go through me. Like, and I'm not talking about Jesus, just so you guys know. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody learn that if you can control the person's view of themselves internally, you can control their vibration through information.
100%. Yeah. Well, so what you're saying is really impactful because I locked in with that frame of thinking at a very young, age in this matrix. When I was super, super new to this realm, I remember having issues with authority, and authority always wanted me again to go through them. It was like they were gatekeepers. They were gatekeepers of the knowledge. They were gatekeepers of the positions. And what I learned throughout my reality is that I love teaching. And every time I was teaching, it felt better when I saw someone learning. And the quote unquote, leaders in our world, they seem to not really get so excited about people learning. They like people being reliant on them. And I never enjoyed that. That's why, like, since day one, when I made my channel, I'm trying to teach people a skill. I'm not trying to show people news or to, make people sad or FOMO or whatever. I'm trying to teach people skills so that you don't need to watch my videos ever again if you don't want to. But the vibrational frequency and all of the love that was built behind the content and what you get to walk away with and then help your community with, that's what it's all about. So, I mean, to answer a part of what you said, there's a famous Richard Nixon quote where he says that the American people will only believe it if it's coming from their television. So if the television tells you to wear a mask, you'll wear a mask. If the television tells you to take off the mask, you'll take off the mask. There's no critical thinking anymore. So what I believe is going on here is people are in their heads, they're in their minds, and they need to move from their mind to their heart. And when you move to your heart, you notice that a 3-year-old child should not be wearing a mask. You start to actually question these basic things. You think to yourself, like, what are we doing? We're doing what our television tells us. And then you look at the people who are telling you, and they're more sickly than you are. They're, they don't look too great. They don't look like necessarily the person who should be delivering truth to me. So again, it's like people like you and me, I believe we are able to help the world through our achievements. And that's way different. When you have somebody who's never achieved anything, like just some random guy in politics, who's the grandson of some other guy who's a Freemason, it's like these people are skillless individuals. They don't actually have much of a skill. They might have public speaking abilities, but even then, most of those people fail at that as well. I mean, I could count on multiple hands how many poor public speaking presidents there were.
Yes.
People that they had no nuance, or their lexicon was like completely just like, lower level. So what I'm trying to say here is that don't let people influence you if they don't vibrate on a frequency of love. If they're vibrating on a frequency of fear, do not let that individual influence you, because all they're doing is making you go external. And a teacher or a leader that makes you vibrate on a frequency of love, their whole process is getting you to go within. And when you go within, you find your truths, and your truths manifest through you and help your community, your family, your tribe. So this is what we really need to do as a species. And we should not be going up to people and telling them take off that mask and calling them names and doing that. They'll figure it out on their own. They'll figure it out on their own. But if you look healthy, if you're performing very healthy, if you're speaking, like very sharp, it's impossible for people to look down on you and speak negatively on you, because through your action, through your performance, you're showing them who you are. And to me, that's how I like to roll. Like, I do everything through my outcome. So I tell people, like, you need to follow the same path. If you continue to thrive in excellence, you don't need to worry about the hate. You don't need to worry about the negativity. You don't need to worry about other people's judgment. Because when you are happy with yourself, when you love yourself, you're no longer worried about any of the external judgment, because you're okay.
Yes. And that's it, man. It's like interesting. Like there's some pretty comments. It's like, I like this, what Freedom Culture said. He said, show and prove, right? And that's one thing that I learned over the last 4 years. It was like, I was always trying to tell people how to live their lives. Like, do this, do that. Here's the steps to do that. And I wasn't getting anywhere. I was not getting anywhere, but I was like, you know what? When I went to Peru, I came back. That was my first trip to Peru. And it was like, my shaman was like, dude, a warrior is here in the heart. It's exactly what you just said. He goes, you got to get from here to here. A warrior's and the warrior is this. It's the loving feeling vibration you have for yourself. And finally, there was you can see it in my transition in 2018 on my podcast. I literally was like, fuck everybody, dude. I'm just gonna do me. I'm gonna tell you guys what I got going on in my life. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and I'm gonna walk through this freaking hellfire, and I'm gonna take you through it. And I did it, and it was like, and now it's like, it's this weird transition of not identifying with anything outside of myself. Mask, left, right, up, down, supercar, no supercar, Florida, whatever. It's just showing up and being present within that current moment and showing as much love as humanly possible within that paradigm that I'm experiencing. And what's happening is it's hard for me to explain what's happening in my life. Like when I share with you guys the stuff that's coming up in June, and when this manifests, it's like it wouldn't make sense to me 4 years ago. I'm like, this doesn't make sense, and I would get really excited about it, but I don't even get too excited about it anymore, because what I experienced, and I actually do want to talk to you about this, because during my trip I experienced something pretty powerful, and I want to ask your wise counsel on this. Okay, so when I was on my trip to Peru, I had this moment in time where I was sitting in the garden. I couldn't wait to talk to you about this and actually talk openly in front of everybody, because I want to hear your perception on it. So I was sitting in the garden, and I was having the highest level of God frequency I've ever had in my life. I mean, I was feeling this love frequency. So I look over, and just to be transparent, guys, I was in Peru. It's legal in Peru. I was doing San Pedro, which is a plant medicine. Just want to be, I'm very proud of it. I used to be ashamed of it, but not ashamed of it. I was afraid to talk about it. I was on San Pedro and under spiritual counsel. So I'm sitting there, and I look over, and I see my old self 16 years ago sitting in the crack house buying drugs with my 3-year-old daughter right there in tow. And I literally looked over, and I saw myself, and I looked back, and I saw that I'm in this garden, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, and then I got this feeling that when I was sitting in the garden in that moment, there was somebody sitting in a crack house at the exact same time I was sitting there. When I was sitting in the crack house 16 years ago, there was somebody sitting in that garden or in a garden. And what I realized, and what I want to talk to you about, is what I realized is the difference between the guy that was in the crack house 16 years ago and the guy that was sitting in Peru at the highest level of frequencies he's ever experienced was the fact that I just accessed a different level of frequency. And within that frequency, there's different experiences that were aligned with that. Still the same human being, but just having a different frequency experience, which aligned with certain things. Like, so as I sat in the garden, there's a billionaire sitting in a yacht in Dubai, right? So if I want to be a billionaire, I can be a billionaire. I just need to align to that frequency. Does that make sense? So so for me, it's frequency. Like, and so I went back through my life 16 years, and I looked at the different stages I went through and the different activities I did that changed my environment, the things that I was hearing and seeing, and the frequency inside of me, and I accessed different levels of experiences. What are your thoughts on what I experienced?
Well, it's important because what you were locating a trauma of your past, and you were like meeting up with that version of yourself, and you were finally letting go of it. Like that's the biggest like thing to overcome. I mean, for me, all of my greatest, achievements in life had to deal with letting go of the past. And that's again getting you tethered more towards the now. But we always have the traumas of yesterday, and we have the stress and anxiety of tomorrow. And most of us are operating in thought of one of those two chapters. But you forget that your book is open to the page that you're looking at right now. So you need to let go of that page of yesterday, and you can't be so hyper focused on tomorrow, because those things aren't going to create an active energy. They're not going to create a high vibrational frequency. They don't exist. Tomorrow legitimately doesn't even exist. And we identify time in a way that it plasmatizes into this belief system, So I think for you to first expose what you just said about that experience at the crack house with your child being nearby, it's a trauma of your life. And now you could look back on it, and you could like hug that version of yourself, And then the other thing is like, whoever was involved in that situation, do they have forgiveness for you? And that's the community side of it. So there's something there to this, to be able to expose some negative moment, or you perceived it once as negative or a bad version of yourself, but now you're rewiring, the way you were attached onto it, and you're seeing the beauty in that moment. I consider this like the Ouroboros. It's the snake eating its tail.
Mm.
Have you ever seen this image before?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I think me and you might have spoken about this, and I probably talked about it on live streams. But I did one of my highest dose mushroom trips I've ever done.
Mm.
I saw myself in the Garden of Eden, like the biblical scene of this Garden of Eden, and I remember taking an apple and biting the apple, and as I was biting it, I was becoming the apple.
Mm.
And it was like this oneness of becoming everything at once, you know, like becoming the universe itself, experiencing the universe. And it was that moment right there where like I was really just taken back by like what have I
Mm.
been doing with the way that I've been perceiving all these things in my life up till this moment, you know? And it just flushed through me with a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation. And you
Oh,
know, after that I went and took a walk, and all the trees, all the flowers, they looked more beautiful.
yeah.
Like they smelled more, like the flowers smelled more pretty. And I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, I used to walk through this neighborhood and I didn't have any gratitude for any of this beauty that surrounded me. And now that I'm here and I'm realizing this, I'm seeing like homeless people yelling. I'm seeing like all this stuff going on. I was living in a city at the time, and I'm like in love with it. I'm like in love with the chaos. I
Yeah.
see the smoke coming out of the back of the car. It used to smell horrible to me, but now I'm just like, it's all neutral. So
Mhm.
there's what you just said before about, I forgot the exact example, but you were talking about how you weren't so excited about what's going on in June, or you're not as excited about it as maybe you once were, because
Mhm.
these accomplishments of yours and these opportunities of yours, they're becoming in sync with you.
Yes.
And when you align with your higher self, when you align with your divine timing, you become more neutral. And I tell people this all the time, and I think this is a good thing to finish this answer off with. For anyone out there that's involved in this crypto market, you need to behave when the market goes up as much as you behave when the market goes down,
Yeah.
because we see this emotional connectivity
Yep.
where everyone's happy and everyone feels like a genius when the market is up. But when the market comes down, that behavior has to go and be directed somewhere. So you become depressed, angry, upset. You feel like you're dumb. You want to panic sell. You want to do all of these emotionally driven ideas. So I tell people all the time, like, when you become a player in this game, don't get happy, don't get sad. Just keep the emotions for
Yes.
real life. You
Yes.
have emotions. Allow them to exist in your real organic life, not for your portfolio.
Yes, that's it. God, I love it, man. I always talk about every circumstance is neutral. Your emotions are not, right? It's like your emotions are not. That's the only difference. I always talk about two people can be at a red light, see a tragic motorcycle accident. The person on the right, their whole life gets destroyed. It just traumatizes them. They start showing up late to work. They start drinking alcohol, right? Their relationship falls apart. The person on the left is like, oh my God, life is short, and starts living their best life. Same exact circumstance, completely different living experience. So thank you for sharing, walking me through that, because it was like it's been a life-changing event for me, because I'm like, okay, I'm just a frequency. That's all I am. If I see things unraveling within my life, I have to look internally at my frequency. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I doing? How am I acting? And I came back with three principles. Number one is integrity. Number two is honesty. And number three is uncompromising belief in what I believe is God, which is love. And if those three things are in alignment with anything and decisions, I'm like our boot camp we just launched. It's in integrity, complete honesty, and it's in alignment with God and love and my belief system in higher power, right? And I'm like, we do it, right? And so that's how I've been making business decisions. We just had a business meeting with a company, right? And they were like, oh, they want to come on and help us out. And I was like, not in alignment. Didn't feel integral, didn't feel honest, and it didn't feel in alignment with love. And I was like, no, sorry guys. And that's my decision. When I tell people, I'm like, listen, it doesn't feel integral, doesn't feel honest. And that's what I'm hoping people will take from this, is operating in that integral space. Because when you start to operate in integrity, it'll piss some people off. But why is it pissing them off? That's the question I have. So I want to dive into some dates. So I know April. So April, this we could go on forever with this, guys. And just a reminder, this stuff that we're talking about, the reason why we created the Great Awakening Bootcamp, which you'll see the link, just go to description. You can also see Waters Above YouTube channel. You're going to see to join Waters Above and I, we're going to take you through a 4-week boot camp. This type of stuff we're talking about, we're going to break it down at a deep, deep level, so you can have tactical tools in your tool belt to go out into this confusing world, I guess, to help it, to, like you said, like he's in the city, and the smog isn't that big of a deal now. It's just a neutral circumstance that he is experiencing within that physical reality at that time. So you can click the link down below to join that. So let's dive into April 30th. So you had mentioned something about April 30th. I know a lot of people were wondering about that date.
Yeah, so I think the whole month of April is going to be really interesting, but we know that the new moon in April is probably going to be a bullish energy, and I've warned people about this, like getting prepared to see some relief and recovery towards the end of this month as we transition into early April. The new moon in April is going to be on the 1st, which is April Fool's Day, so that's going to definitely be an interesting day. But the what's kind of just weird about the month is we actually have a new moon at the end of the month as well. So it's like just completely, completely weird to have two new moons in the same month, and they're at the start and at the end. So I'm considering this is going to be a pressure cooker of a month. It's either going to be a massive spike to the upside, followed by some sort of like okay, energy into the month of May. But one of the things that I do need to talk about is the transition into the month of May, because we saw what happened last year when we hit that eclipse on May 19th of 2021. We had a huge correction in the market.
Yes, yes.
So I don't want people to sleep on this. If we do get bullish energy and relief into the time frame of May, you might want to de-risk. Like, this is not a time to play games because the market's really unstable. There's lots of narratives coming from all angles. So I know what I'm doing. I know what, I'm very careful with the way that I'm delivering these words. Again, just the disclaimer of do your own research, and I'm not a financial advisor, but for me, I'm purposefully planning to de-risk a little bit as a business owner and as a big crypto holder in any bullish relief that we get in this market. Because if you look at pretty much any crypto chart or any chart for that matter, the tech stocks, the indices, you're going to see that this kind of is a precarious zone to be trading in. We saw, believe it or not, on Amazon, we saw a 30% pullback on Amazon recently. Do you know how much Amazon pulled back on the C-word crash? Only 25%.
Wow.
So we had a bigger pullback for Amazon just a month ago than we did during the C word. So this is something that's signaling to me like we're getting very ready to have a boom bust cycle, where the boom part of it is on the horizon and it needs something has to give. And if I had to time this all out, I think one of the big bullish spikes we're going to get is most likely as soon as possible, sometime in April, as we move into the Taurus zodiac, which is about April 20th or so. So we have, like, what is that? A full 30 days from today. And then we know historically that these eclipses, they tend to be a very pivotal time in the market. Even the Black Monday in 1987.
Yep.
So that was at the end of Shemitah in 1987.
Wow.
For anyone out there, if you want to watch the movie Wolf of Wall Street, you'll remember in the beginning of that movie, he loses his job in the stock market because of that crash. So that date right there was right around an eclipse. So I'm not taking the eclipses lightly this year out of all years. So it's very easy to look up. You could just Google eclipse 2020 and you'll see the list of all the eclipses. But there's one at the end of April, then there's one in May 15th, then there's another one in October 25th, and then November 8th. So this year is going to be, we knew this already, though, because we already see how the world's operating. We're seeing the pandemic narrative end. We're seeing the war narrative kind of pick up. We're seeing massive inflation in energy, in oil prices. And I don't think it's stopping just yet. I think it's going to continue. So if people are not, happy about this kind of stuff, well, again, you might be one of those individuals that if you do have a crypto portfolio and you need some extra cash because of the expensive cost of living this year, if we get any bullish energy, you got to be careful. So that's kind of how I'm playing this market. I'm looking at this eclipse in April to be pivotal. And the one in May, I'm really interested in. One other note to make, and I think we might have spoke this on last. I was talking about how this May will be 2 years and 2 months since the start of the pandemic. And then if we look back at Spanish flu lasted 2 years and 2 months. But then we have something interesting in May. We have a Friday the 13th. So remember, Friday the 13th of March in 2020 was the huge, huge lows on the charts for all the cryptos. Like if you bought that Friday the 13th in 2020, you're a legend today.
Damn, man, this is wild. So like I was thinking about this, and I want to walk people through. Like I cannot agree with you more. I think we have very similar investing strategies. I'm a long-term investor. I'm also, so the things that I learned through last year, or through, was it 2020 is when it collapsed in May, right? Was it 2020 or 2021?
2021 in May, we had a bigger correction. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So what I learned in 2021 is it was pumping, all through January. I wish I would have pulled a lot more off the table. I was like, it was probably the biggest mistake I've made so far in crypto. I mean, massive profits, and I just sat on it, and then boom, it came collapsing back down. So I held long term. So that was what I learned. What I also learned is to get really detailed on and I know you have an exit strategy as well. We have one in our academy, so you can check out both of our information here. So like I built a really strict exit strategy. So I want to walk people through. If you're maybe newer to crypto, we have a lot of newer crypto people. So what we mean by that is, and so from my perspective, is what I'm doing is as the market goes bullish and it goes up, I'm hitting exit targets and I'm pulling money off the table. I'm getting money out of the market so we can get some of that profits, right? And then you if it goes down, I hold and I buy the dip if it makes sense, right, within that current moment. So you really have to have a plan, guys. That's really, really important. You don't want to just go willy-nilly into these markets and be emotional with the market, right? If you have a game plan, you literally don't, you just watch the market go up and then you follow your exit strategy.
Right.
If it goes down, if you feel like it's the right time, seek wise counsel, maybe buy more cryptocurrency. So I dollar cost average every single week on Friday. I have a couple cryptocurrencies I dollar cost average into. I'm not emotionally tied to the market. If it's pumping, cool. If it hits my target, I pull. And the key is to be really disciplined with that. So one thing also too, I do want to talk to you about a little bit about regulation. So for example, I'm an ex-banker. What I think is happening, obviously I'm invested in a lot of ISO 20022 coins because of my banking experience, kind of like someone who's vegan. I know a lot about banking and it makes sense to me. And I kind of look at it as a software companies that I'm invested in for the future. Mm-hmm. But with regulation, where do you see, because I believe a bunch of the cryptos are going to get wiped out. And I said this before.
Agreed.
People freaked out. They're like, when I said 99%, but you got to understand, what is there, like 10,000 cryptos or something?
There's like 17,000.
Jesus Christ, 17,000 cryptos. So when we say 99%,
by the time this interview is over, there'll be 18,000.
Yeah. So it's like when we say almost all the cryptos are going to get wiped out, you got to understand there's going to be a large portion left, which will be the fundamental cryptocurrencies. So another warning I want to share with people, and just make sure that you're following wise counsel. That's what I want to say is like, stay away from these pump and dumpers, these people that are always getting you rich quick. If they're always telling you about the next big coin that's going to make you a multimillionaire, like be really careful with that. That's what got me wrecked when I first got into crypto. It was because I was like I was excited. I was like, this is new to me. Like, and the investment, it didn't make sense to me. And I kept losing money and then gaining money and losing money. And then I was like, you know what? I'm building my own game plan. And I call it Warren Buffett style investing. I started researching. That's how I started my YouTube channel. I started researching deep into the cryptocurrencies, fundamentals, tying them back to reports and tying them back to executive orders, and started looking at actual things that were happening in the physical world, moves that were being made, government moves, whether it's World Economic Forum, the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, the EU, what they were doing. And then I was making financial decisions based on that. And so, I forgot what my question was. I was going somewhere.
Are you talking about regulation?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. So what do you think, like, what's going to happen with cryptocurrency and regulation?
So, I mean, first, you just gave so much gems there, like what you were talking about with exit strategy and all that stuff. That's all really important. Like, definitely pay attention to what Coach just said. Like, I just came out with an exit strategy blueprint, like probably like a month ago, and it covers basically this whole idea, but it implements Gematria. So it's like if you wanted to know a specific coin's exit targets, you'll be able to use this code to determine those numbers. So going back to like a year ago, I remember when it was April of 2021, a lot of people, they were like weirded out when I said that I was selling my XRP at like $1.40, $1.70, and they were like really, they didn't understand why I was doing that. Right. And I was trying to get people to understand that this is my investment. I bought XRP at 17 cents. Yep. If it goes up to $1.70, I'm not going to listen to YouTubers. I'm going to do what's best for me and my family. Mm-hmm. I have to do what's best for me and my family. So I design my whole protocol based off of a conservative, but also tactical methodology that's strategic. So that's super important to talk about. So that might be something we could talk about on our next interview. But regarding regulation, we have to remember Shemitah always played a huge role in what was to come with those big boom and bust cycles. Yes. So what happened during the dot-com bubble? Well, we saw a lot of those dot-com, those really, really like, they were like the shit coins of today. They were just a bunch of nonsense, and it mostly got drowned out. And what was left over at the end were the winners. So that happened during Shemitah. And in that same Shemitah year, we had 9/11. So they even had the war narrative as well with the war in Iraq and etc. So guys, like, people need to understand that this is all cyclical. This is all cyclical. So the beauty of having this knowledge ahead of time is you could position yourself accordingly. And I was telling everyone that if the market did have a parabolic bull run into the end of 2021, then I would have de-risked all of my ISO 222 coins. But if we didn't have that happen, I would hold, and then I would reinvest any like fiat that I had into these ISO 222 coins for the 2023, 2024 year. And the reason why is because we have the Bitcoin halving. The Bitcoin halving is always a beautiful time to buy crypto, any crypto. If you see every halving, Bitcoin's at a super low level. It's very affordable. And then about 6 months after a halving, Bitcoin booms. And then we see every other crypto follow suit. So there will be isolated events, of course, because we have like NFTs now. We have everything that's going on with these validator nodes. We have so much going on in this market that didn't exist back in 2017. But to answer your question, I think we're sort of on the cusp of regulation. And I know for a fact we have ISO 222 going live in like November 22nd, I believe. And remember what I was saying earlier about the eclipse on November 8th. So I would not be surprised if November into the end of the year is some sort of regulatory moment. You know, a moment where we might get hit with like some like out of left field, like what the hell's going on. And, you know, the billionaires are just boom, they're buying IOTA, they're buying, you know, all this stuff, XDC, stellar lumens, like, so all that stuff, it's super suppressed right now. But me, like, my investment strategy, and you could ask anyone that pays attention to my work, I like to buy when it's boring, when it's not sexy, when no one cares. That's my strategy. Like when I was buying XRP when it was 16, 17, 18 cents, it wasn't sexy. But then when it went to $1.40, I saw some of the biggest YouTubers that never talk about XRP start talking about XRP.
100%.
And here we were, the original, like, you know, so this is my practice. Like, yes, I might be late to certain fads, but I'm not here for trends. I'm here to build a long-term portfolio. So for me, I have a very comprehensive and chill, like patient outlook on my investments. And the ISO 222 and the regulation conversation is absolutely like, it's in the top 2-3 most important things as my current investment thesis. Yeah, so I feel like it would be dumb to not invest in some of these coins.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think
and one last thing, Bitcoin and Ethereum are both talked about in those paperworks. So for people out there that are saying Bitcoin's going to zero or Ethereum's no, it is not. Ethereum will be probably tokenizing the entire stock market. So people need to chill out, because there's this like XRP army kind of thing going on where they think Bitcoin's going to go to zero. And I'm like, guys, you need to relax. Like, you need to actually read the documents. And before you know, make these vast dramatic opinions, you might want to read that stuff first, you know, and it'll help you a lot better at making better investment choices.
Well, I love what you just said, because I think the problem is what's happening is a lot of people get into this realm to become famous versus to really dive into information, right? Because when people tell me Ethereum is going to, like, I have Ethereum mine, I'm right behind me mining as we speak right now. So people are like, oh, it's going to switch, and then I'll have to switch to Ravencoin or something like that. But Ethereum, if you dive into Ethereum, it is so deeply ingrained in the banking system, it would blow your mind. Like, I can show you document after document after document. Look up consensus. I mean, it's like when people say Ethereum's going to zero, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, please, because people come to me like, hey, this person told me I need to get out of Ethereum. I'm like, share with me facts, figures, numbers, logic. That's what I always say. And so that's, I think the premise of this is just, I always say wise counsel, right? So one of the biggest things that where I got this word from is like, you know, I used to know quite a few people, right, in my realm. And I have a very small circle now where it was like, you know, I'd have people, I love the Bible and I love, you know, the walk of Jesus and all that stuff. And I'm just a non-denominational, whatever you call it. I'm just a dude that loves Jesus, a walk of Jesus. And so I meet these Christian dudes, and they're giving me advice on the Bible and life and stuff like that and all this stuff. And I'm like, you're drinking an energy drink and eating a breakfast burrito from the gas station. No, seriously. I mean, and people get pissed off when I say this, but I'm like, you're giving me wise counsel on how to live my life as you're drinking a Monster Energy drink and you're eating a breakfast burrito from a gas station and you're literally want to pray for me. And I'm like, brother, you don't no, fix your vibration. Don't put your hands on me. like, no offense. Like, I'm just saying, this sounds like an ego to no, but what I'm saying is my point behind that is hear what I'm saying. Seek wise counsel. Is the counsel actually doing what they are saying? That's really, 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 really important. And then look at the counsel's intention. What is their intentions, right? What are the intentions for me and Waters Above launching a boot camp? Because you're going to get people to say, oh, it's all about money. If we gave it away for free, guess how many people would show up to the boot camp? Guess. I've done it. You give away stuff for free, maybe one person. Let's say you thousands of people that sign up, but when somebody pays for something, they see value in something. We didn't create that monetary system. We live in the monetary system. When somebody pays for something, it's like people are like, why don't we give away tons of YouTube for free? So it's really important to understand, like, what is your wise counsel? You know, where are you seeking it from? Who are you getting your advice from? Like, you can't take financial advice from somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck. That's not the wise counsel, right? So I wanted to kind of wrap that all together. And again, this isn't financial advice. We're just, there's someone in the comments kind of doing some amazing love comments, but what we're sharing is experiences, right? There's experiences that we've gone through within our current lives that maybe you can see it in yourself and make an informed decision, right? But every single person is different. That's what's cool. That's why I love bringing Waters Above on. I've learned a shitload from Waters Above. You guys have no idea. That's why I wanted to partner. If you guys understand me and you follow me and you're in my academy, I very rarely partner with people in business. I have vet the hell out of people before I partner with them in business, right? We had a one cryptocurrency that made it to our academy because we vetted. They went through 5-level process to come into our academy because we don't just do things for money. It's intention of helping people, right? Honesty, integrity, all that stuff. So, I know we want to wrap this up. We're coming up on an hour. So, just wanted to say, what are some things you got going on in your academy? I know you launched your exit strategy. You want to make sure people have access to that. What are some things you have going on in your community?
Well, so we're coming up on a 1 year anniversary of my Patreon membership. So that's pretty dope. Like, I couldn't even believe it until this morning when I was making my YouTube video. I was like, wow, man, we're like 1 week away from a 1 year anniversary of doing this, and it was called the Mastermind Community. And it was essentially it was like a place for all the people that were, just seeking to be surrounded by high vibrational beings. And what's beautiful about that Patreon membership that we have is there's a Discord, and within it, there's a bunch of different sections where people could talk about technical analysis. They could talk about Gematria. They could do decoding. We even have some members now that are creating their own YouTube channels and starting their own thing. And we have a health and wellness section. So it's really dope, to see where it's come to. And this is just the beginning. I want to do so much more with it. But and I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway for my patrons on the start of April, and that'll be really exciting. I'll come up with something super lucrative for them. So besides that, that's really pretty much the only thing I have going on. I have some really unique decodes coming out for Patreon members really soon. And then I'm planning to work with you on this boot camp. I'm really stoked. I've been taking a lot of notes on it, and I'm just really excited to see what happens. Because every time me and you talk, it seems like it could be, it fractals out into all these directions. And what I really love about connecting with you, and something that people might not be able to see from either us individually, but it's that ability to just vibe, to go onto a subject matter and just really vibe it out. And that's really what's important, because when you have someone that's, some people are very methodical and they're very strategic, but they need to be scripted. And me and you don't do anything. I've never spoken with you and got that vibe at all. No. It's very it's a very flow state type of thing. So I'm stoked to do that. And I think it's going to be, I already have people that are just like, wow, let's go. Let's get it ready.
It's going to be exciting. I really feel like this program is going to change the world. And what it's going to change is, the biggest thing about it is, imagine the high vibration group of people coming together. That's the cool part about it. The level of vibration that's going to come into that conference, into that Zoom call, in the connections. This is one thing I want to share with people. When you go into things like this, if you're going to Warrior Academy, you're going to Waters Above community, connect with people, because these are high vibrational people that you want to know and trust. And so one thing that I learned is, people are like, we're taking people into my life on more what I do, because people are like, my team was like, we need to share with people, I own 9 companies. So they're like, I'm going to show people what we do. Like, literally, what are the 9 companies? What is my role in those companies? Because, I've just been reporting the news, right? And so how this has all come to fruition is because the high vibrational people I surround myself with. And it had nothing to do with like, it's resources. That's all you need. So when you go into these communities warriors and you're in the groups, connect with people, get people's information. These are people that have the same level of vibration that can help you with that next thing. And remember, a lot of people are like, oh, to start a business, I have to have this money. You don't have to have money. You just have to have resources, and you don't have to know everything. You just have to have people. When you have people and you have resources and you truly love and have good intentions, you will always succeed. So we'll leave you guys with that. We love you guys. The description down below within the chat here, you can join the 3twarrior.com/awakening. The boot camp's going to fill up very, very fast. We have, there's going to be a limited spot. Obviously, it's a webinar. It will be live with us, though. This is a live webinar. It's going to go for 4 weeks, okay? If you miss one of the webinars, no worries. It will be recorded and sent out to you immediately once it renders and sent out. If you miss all 4 of them, you'll be it'll go packaged up and it'll be sent to your email. We have one of the best customer service teams in the world. We'll make sure that you're taken care of. So we love you guys. We appreciate you. And as we always say, warriors, rise, get your shit together.